VelociPodcast. VelociPodcast.
Hey, sexy friend.
He's making me his bitch.
Maybe you want to get a piece of that.
Pretty good.
I want to talk about sexy teens.
I was getting erections.
It's a very creepy feeling. I can guarantee that underwear theft will come up again.
None of this is relevant.
Pokemon, Pokeballs.
750 milliliter bottle of rum.
Welcome to the VelociPodcast, a study in monology. This is your grumpy Uncle Peter. He will say words at you.
Recently on VelociPodcast, I did a bit about whiskey reviews. I get a newsletter, and I got kind of annoyed because they never describe anything that actually seems like whiskey to me. They do a lot of wood, like bark and cedar, and they spend a lot of time out licking trees apparently because those all come in. The oaky cask taste I kind of get, but I don't think anyone's ever actually licking the oak, so I don't really get how that works. There was one review that I read where the guy said it tasted like a brass doorknob. Well, that was one of the flavor notes that they talked about, and I was thinking, who's licking a brass doorknob? And it was very specific. I have a brass pen. It's a very nice pen, by the way. I've never licked it. I mean, I know when I was a kid, I probably had a penny in my mouth, and I know the coppery taste of things, but I don't think you should be introducing your fetishes into whiskey reviews. That's one side. The other side of whiskey reviews, they tend to get very dessert-oriented. They talk about chocolate cake, they talk about fruits, and they talk about a lot of things that, again, don't taste like whiskey. If you go to VelociPodcast, you can go listen to that episode of VelociPodcast. I actually read a couple of reviews. This happened the week before. A friend of mine came back from a holiday. Ben, thank you very much. And he had a friend of his who's not my friend. It's a 6 degrees, 1 degree of separation. So he's kind of my friend. I think it's Big Scottish Mike or something like that. It sounds racist. I didn't really want to say that, but I'm pretty sure I got the name wrong too because I didn't write it down. That's just kind of the level of quality you would expect from a VelociPodcast of any sort. That level of research and due diligence. So I want to thank him for the recommendation because he recommended it to Ben. Ben then carried it all the way back to me, and I got it. And this is called Aberfeldy. And I'm sure anyone from Scotland or the Scottish area has now winced at my pronunciation. Now what I could do is put on an accent and say it again. I kind of feel like that would make it worse. So this is a whiskey review of this whiskey. You can see I've already tippled, I think is the appropriate word. That wasn't today. I had about that so far. And to really start off, you have to know, like, what is the standard? What are they saying about their own product? It's Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, guaranteed 12 years in oak. So if they say it tastes like oak, that kind of makes sense. It's been sitting in oak. If I sat in oak for 12 years, for the first 12 years of my life, and people said, Peter, when I lick you, if they said, Peter, you taste like oak, I would go, well, yeah, there's a certain sort of transmogrification, transference of properties if you spend that much time in a barrel. We lose our fair share to the angels. Don't know what that means. Apparently, they were drinking this when they wrote that. That's been mellowed for 12 years in handmade oak casks. This smooth, sweet dram offers rich rewards for those who like to dig deeper. Don't really know what that means. I mean, I get there's an idiom to dig deeper and try harder. Are they? Then on the back, there's some Scottish alchemy, turning water, barley, and yeast into liquid gold is simple. When the stream tumbling towards you contains that precious metal. Built on land famous for deposits of gold, our distillery has welcomed travelers to my eyes are bad. Maybe I need new glasses. Welcome travelers to taste the treasure since 1898. And then it actually has an address, and the address ends in Paris, France. So apparently to get your Scottish whiskey, you have to go to France. Oh. Now, there are only two questions that need to be answered when talking about whiskey. So I'm going to give you the least pretentious, most honest whiskey review ever. Number one, does it get you drunk? You can tell by this review already, yes, it does. Very well. Does it taste good while it's getting you drunk? That's still part of the first question. I would say yes, it tastes very good, and you should drink it. Now, what is that second question I hear you wondering about? I didn't actually hear you. Really, the question is this good for home defense? So, the bottle is weighty, and that is good because, that means it's going to take several hard impacts before the glass shatters, before the weapon is essentially deteriorated, and you therefore can probably use it on multiple home invaders before it breaks. I do have a complaint about the stubbiness of the neck here because you can see my hand, to get a really good grip on that, my little finger doesn't actually go over. So if I really want to crank someone with this, I want to really pound them really hard into the ground, just ruin their life, just end a bitch. Can you end a bitch with this? Yes, but can you do it comfortably? No. I'm sorry to have to say you can't end a bitch comfortably with this bottle because the neck is too short. If you have a human-sized hand like mine, maybe a little big, it's not that big. Now that it's closer to the camera, it looks bigger, but it's not bigger than my head. If I put it back here, it's look normal size again. That's called perspective. You take a good firm grip and that's your little finger, and this is the bit that really bothers me because as you know, because you've followed the podcast for the last 3 years, you've heard all the stories about me doing judo. Judo is very important. One of the things you learn in judo is that these are the grippy fingers. When you're holding on to stuff, it's this one, and this one. If you lose that grip, that's a problem. For years, I dealt with this on this hand. So this one I can close all the way. You see this nice seal? This one, I broke this finger, and then now it doesn't close. Even if I push it, it won't close all the way. So this hand, my grip is actually weaker than this hand. It's because of the lack of the full function of the little finger. So when I grab this bottle, I don't feel confident I get full control of my swing. I don't think I get the momentum and the power that I could really generate if this was just a few centimeters longer. So something to consider when buying your alcohol is how long is the neck? Can I get a good grip of it? Is it solid? But as far as glass quality goes, this is an excellent bottle. I would highly recommend it. I would actually bet you could take out 3-4 people before it even cracks. So there's your VelociPodcast review of Aberfeldy whiskey, 12-year-old, and it gets you drunk.
VelociPodcast. VelociPodcast.
Hey, sexy friend.
He's making me his bitch.
Thank you for listening. Leave a text or voice question or comment at voicelink.fm/VelociPodcast. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, or go to velocipeter.com/podcast. Sexy out, homies.
This was maybe just a few centimeters